Playmaking is something I talk about a lot on this channel. It's my favorite aspect of basketball to break down and study. The layers to it are very complex, and it's interesting to me because the idea of playmaking is very simple, making a play. But that's very open-ended. It applies to passing, scoring, defense, and many other things. It's about creating advantages on both ends of the floor, whether you have the basketball in your hands or not, or if you're the main focus or not. And I have seen many great playmakers as a basketball fan, each one unique in their own way. And just when I thought I have seen it all when it comes to unique playmakers, a new player enters the fold. OTE Amen Thompson is a well-known prospect in the draft community and in general for most basketball fans at this point, as most projected top 5 picks are. He may not get the attention that Victor and Scoot get because those two are just on another level, but Amen is a great prospect in his own right, currently a top 3 projected guy for me, and likely a lock for number 3 on my board. And he might be the best playmaker in this class. However, while I do think you have to consider the other contenders for best playmaker in the 2023 draft because there are a lot of great playmakers, Amen has no contenders for this. The most unique playmaker I've ever evaluated on tape. This is what he does as a passer. He's going to set up with a crossover into a hang dribble. He's then going to explode and attack the basket. Now I want you to focus on all the defenders on the court. They all have some form of attention towards Amen as he's attacking the basket, and it really is a sign of just how much scoring gravity he has as a slasher and how much rim pressure he can generate as an athlete when that many defenders are at the very least somewhat committed to trying to stop him on the drive. Now while in mid-air, he's going to notice the open shooter on the perimeter and he's going to whip an accurate pass into the shooter's pocket and he's going to hit the open shot. I love this play here because it really highlights just how much attention that players take towards Amen and his athletic gifts, because you'll notice on this play, even though there are multiple other players on the floor, they're all focused on him. And the moment he drives here, you notice that the defender shifts, leaves the man open in the corner, Amen makes the right read. I think this is the play that best described what Amen Thompson is as a playmaker the most. He's going to use the screen, attack downhill, and just draw the attention because he has that much slashing gravity as a finisher. And while in mid-air, he processes the fact that the defenders are playing the roll man in the drive and makes the adjustment in mid-air to find the open shooter right behind him. This is just a really fun play. To me, it highlights his feel for the game as a passer and his ability to utilize pass manipulation moves. Uses a soft fake here. I am always a believer that the ability to use pass fakes behind the backs and things like that aren't just for show, they are legit tools to use as a playmaker. I chose those 4 plays because they highlight what makes Amen Thompson so special. His feel for the game, his understanding of his gravity as a scorer, his ability to process defenses quickly, the skill to make certain passes, and his utilization of athleticism as a passer. He has a lot of traits to look for in elite playmakers. A good handle, not perfect but still pretty good, the height at 6'7" to see over most defenses as a guard, the ability to run offense, understanding how to use scoring gravity as a way to open up his passing ability, the ability to be accurate as a passer, the feel for the game to be creative and do things that catch defenses off guard because they never see them coming. Most of these traits, minus maybe height, are things that all elite playmakers have. But what separates Amen from just about every playmaker I've evaluated on tape is that his athleticism is just on another level. I'm not saying we haven't seen athletic playmakers in the past. We have seen them before. But the thing is, there's athletic basketball players and then there's Amen Thompson. Amen and his twin brother Asar are 2 of the most freakish athletes I've ever seen on tape. It's anime and or Star Wars levels of ridiculous vertical explosion, flexibility, speed, quickness, and body control. In just about every aspect of athleticism minus pure strength, Amen is beyond elite. And really minus his twin brother in Scoot, who has all of those things including pure strength, I can't think of many other guard prospects I can say that about. Amen is a generational athlete, and I feel like saying generational might be underselling it. That's how ridiculous of an athlete he is. And it's how he integrates this once-in-a-lifetime kind of athleticism into his playmaking that separates him from any other playmaker I've evaluated since I started doing this in 2016. Amen is combining the elite playmaking intangibles that only the best playmakers have with athleticism that not many, if any, playmaker can come close to. He uses his athleticism to create plays and find angles that even other elite playmakers can't because they aren't physically capable of doing what Amen does. And he makes reads, decisions, processes the situation, throws passes, and manipulates defenses in a way freak athletes can't because they don't have the playmaking intangibles that Amen has. Amen is a combination of athleticism you can't teach and playmaking feel and intangibles that you can't teach. And it's not just about the fact that he has this combination either. It's the fact he understands he has this combination and utilizes these rare gifts to produce a complex and effective playmaking ability. That's what makes him the most unique playmaker I've ever studied because he's the only player on tape I've seen with this kind of combination. And he's also the only one I've seen who makes that combination the focal point of his offensive engine. Now, I'm not saying Amen is a perfect prospect. If he was, he would at the very least be in the conversation with Scoot and Wemby, but would probably be ahead of them if he was perfect. Perfect prospects don't exist. And there are some concerns that I have and many others have with Amen. He isn't a great shooter. I know he's working on the form. I'm encouraged by the fact that he realizes that he needs to improve as a shooter and has been working at it, but the results are a bit slow right now. I'm going to give it time because it does take a while to adjust to new forms when you tweak them a bit, but I am seeing more willingness to shoot, although he is still a bit hesitant, and I do think that's the big swing factor here. If he ever becomes a great shooter, he's going to be a superstar. I have no doubt about it, given everything else that he can do. But right now, I do think, looking at his form, looking at the numbers, looking at his sort of confidence or lack of confidence to shoot the basketball, I do think it's more likely that we look at a projection where he becomes a solid shooter at best, which would still be incredible for his ceiling, but, not quite taking him to the full-blown superstardom. But I think, again, right now, just work at being competent as a shooter. He's not quite there yet, but I do see some encouraging signs, but it is something to monitor. And secondly, they do play with OTE, and that might be something that is a bit confusing for people when it comes to evaluation. And the reason isn't because I don't think OTE can't work and it can eventually be a real thing that players use as a pathway after high school to eventually prepare for the NBA draft, but at the same time, it is still new. And because it's so new, and Amen and Asar are two prospects that are really the first top two prospects that the program has ever had. I know people will point to Zon Montero as an example of someone that went to OTE as this projected lottery pick going into the cycle and ended up going undrafted, but there are a lot of things that went on with Zon that aren't related to OTE as to why he went undrafted, and I don't think it's fair to use that as a reflection of what Overtime Elite is as a program. And also another thing that people tend to use against the Thompson twins in general is their age. They are a bit older for this draft class. Age-wise, they were eligible for 2022 as a draft, and I think they would have gone pretty high if they were in that draft class, but I do think people use that against them. I don't use it against them because they will be 20 in their rookie seasons, and I don't think 20 is an age that's newly old enough to be like, these guys don't have super high ceilings, they can't reach their full potential, they have peaked. Like, that's not how that usually works, so it's not really something I'm worried about. 20 is still young enough where you have a decent amount of upside, and even though they are 20, it's not like that takes away from the traits that they have that others just don't, and the traits that they have that can't be taught either. I feel like people that use the age against them have some underlying sort of agendas that are being pushed, and they're being pushed through having not great morals, but that's another story for another time. At the end of the day, even with some of the quote-unquote concerns surrounding Amen, I don't think it's enough to take away from what he's good at, and what he's good at, he's great at. And what he's great at is why I believe he's going to be a top 3 pick in the draft. At least that's how I think it should be. I believe he's the third best player in this draft. Right now, I think he's starting to separate himself as that number 3 guy because his gifts are just so rare. And even though this draft is pretty talented, there aren't many players that are doing what Amen does in general, let alone in this draft class. And that's why I believe in him so much and why I think he's going to change the way playmaking is viewed once he reaches the NBA.